Welcome to another episode of the Marathon Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Campos, and today I have a guest that I have to read off a resume. I feel, and it was for really good reason because there's some really cool stuff here. So I'm going to read it out before I introduce the person. So number one loan officer in San Antonio for the past 4 years, ranked as one of the top 250 loan officers in America. By Scotsman's Guide, top 50 women originators, top 175 loan officers out of over 500,000 nationwide, TV personality, national bestseller, published author with 2 books, motivational speaker, business and executive coach, top 10 most empowering women in mortgage industry worldwide. And my favorite, self-proclaimed numbers nerd. Welcome, Jennifer Guidry.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, me too.
It's nice to see you.
Yeah, we were just talking offline, but it's been a minute, but we've known each other for quite a while. We were trying to figure out what year it was.
I want to say 2007 or 2008, maybe?
Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
I just remember, still remember the room, because you showed up to a closing, which back then there wasn't a lot of lenders doing that. And that kind of impressed me. So I was like, that's how our relation, I think I reached out and that's how we started. But I don't even remember who the client was. I don't remember. It's how long ago it was.
And I remember eating sushi with you.
Yeah.
Going to that place on Blanco Road.
That's right. So is that, and then that's why when I said numbers nerd, because that you said that to me, and I remember that always stuck out to me. So that's why I wanted to throw that in there.
I know,
but it's been a minute. It's been a minute. And you've been busy.
I have.
You've been very busy. Published author recently, and well, not recently, but the fact that your books have taken off, and
I was not intending to ever be an author or a writer. I never even fashioned myself, to do any of those things. And it turns out, I guess God had other plans for me.
Of course.
And I started writing, and I don't know. I'm meant to help people, and I didn't know in what capacity. I always thought, obviously helping people with their journey of home ownership, and helping people in that capacity. But I learned that through my crazy stories. Like, I've had so much stuff that's happened my entire life, and I'm like, how did I live through that, or how did I get through that?
Yeah.
And I started really thinking about it and writing it all down. And turns out it helps other people because they're, have either gone through the same thing, or they're going through some sort of a storm, or,
100%.
an issue. And, it's just kind of taken off from there.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's why I wanted to have you on, because knowing you for as long as I have, prior to all of this blowing up, per se, like as far as like your success in your business and outside, as far as with your brand and everything else, I'm like, I kind of been along for the ride.
You have been.
and just seeing from the outside and kind of going like, that's awesome and perfect timing to have you on. So
I've been excited about this for the last month.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I appreciate it.
So let's start from the beginning a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to, I'll just kind of skip around, but I wanted to kind of go back. So where you raised, or where are you from?
From my mom.
See, guys, just a joker. And so I love her personality, and that's, so, yeah,
I'm from
100%.
from Buffalo, New York, originally.
All right.
From Tonawanda. That's what my husband, Michael, he's like Tonawanda. I'm like, no, it's the town of Tonawanda. That's where I was
the name
actually
of the town.
born. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a small little, I don't know, probably 3 to 5 square miles.
Wow.
It's a little suburb of Buffalo, and
Okay.
that's where we grew up.
And when did you get to San Antonio?
Oof. So I've lived here twice. The first time, so after Buffalo, it snowed in
all the time.
May, but it was the deal breaker. It snowed in May. I was a sophomore in college, and I'm like, I'm done. And I actually sold everything I owned, quit school, and I moved to California. And then I arrived in San Antonio the first time in November of 1999.
Okay.
And I was working for Centex back then.
Okay.
And they promoted me within 6 months and moved me up to Dallas. So I
Okay.
spent, I think, like 6 years in Dallas roughly. And then I moved back down here and started brand new from scratch in November. I always do all my moves in November for some reason. November of 2005
Okay.
is when I officially moved back, and I've been here since.
So, you were in lending with Syntax at that time, or?
Yes, I just managed.
Okay.
Yeah, I managed a branch, and, I was here for like 6 months
Okay.
in San Antonio, and they're like, oh, and then started managing up there, and I ran the top branch. I was like 20 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Youngest, manager, and then I was training everyone else on how to do what I did.
Yeah.
And, didn't really originate a lot back then at all, just kind of onesie twosies. And, went through, like when I lived in Dallas, I was a regional manager. I ran 3 states for another mortgage company. And, just a lot of management and just peppered in with origination. But when I moved here to San Antonio, I said, I'm done managing.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anybody. And I just started from scratch here.
So you skipped over a couple of things.
Okay.
You said you left school.
Yes.
So you didn't finish?
No. Okay. So I know that's kind of like, So, so my whole life I wanted to be a doctor, and
Okay.
I was going to school. I had a full scholarship to school, presidential scholarship, and didn't have to pay for anything. Again, self-proclaimed total nerd.
Yeah.
I was in the honors classes. I mean, we were like 6 people in my class. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But I just had this free spirit to me back then.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to be fine no matter what I do.
Yeah.
And I quit school and I moved to California. I had $5,000 in my pocket. I mean, I sold even my saxophone. I used to play the sax back then. And my vehicle and like my furniture that was really my parents', I still sold that and just kind of went out there with a dream. And I promised them I'd re-enroll in school. And I did. And I went to night school, but it's in California is where I got into the mortgage business. And I started doing so well
Okay.
out there that I'm like, well, I could either go to school for another, 8 years, or I can do mortgage loans.
Okay.
Guess what I chose?
Well, it wasn't being a doctor.
No, it was not. I still feel like I'm a doctor, though, in a way, like 'cause I'm like a psychiatrist.
Psychiatrist.
Though.
Yeah.
I'm constantly, analyzing and having to figure all these things out for people, and
Yeah.
that I'm everyone's sounding board. So
Yeah.
I still kind of got that, but
I kind of feel like that's like our industry too.
yeah,
Like when we're dealing with our clients, like you wear that hat at some point.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Well, that answers another question, because like I was like, how did you get into the business? And then like kind of like where did that start? 'Cause
Crazy story. Okay, so
Yeah.
I'll tell you so when I moved to California, again, money ran out really quick. I lived with 2 other people, and we had an apartment with no furniture in it whatsoever, but we had sleeping bags, and we literally used cardboard boxes for tables. And we had nothing. Yeah. And so each of us took a room, sleeping bag. We couldn't afford anything, but we were a mile away from the ocean on the top of a hill. So it kind of made up for things.
Sure.
But when I got there, I mean, nobody would hire me. It was the weirdest thing.
Okay.
So I've been working since I was 11 years old, from paper route to cashier to whatever.
Okay.
And I interviewed at all these different places in California. And I'm talking not really, like PetSmart, Petco, retail stores,
Yeah.
and nobody would give me a job. Nobody.
Huh.
And I'm like, what in the heck is going on?
You
Like,
gonna try
no
to
one's
wait
hiring
tables?
me.
Wait tables?
No one. I interviewed at probably 20 different places,
Wow.
and I did not get the job. And one day I was feeling very defeated, and I went down to the neighborhood, like the pool at the apartment complex, and I started talking to these girls, which I would never usually do, but I did in this occasion.
Yeah.
And they said, hey, we're going to have a party tonight. You should come. And I'm like, I don't know you guys, but I'm like, all right, I have nothing better to do. I don't have a job. And within 5 minutes of walking in there, I overheard 2 of the other ladies talking about how they can't find anyone that is, trustworthy and shows up for work. And I'm like, and I walked up to them. I said, what are you hiring for? I'll do it. I don't care what it is. And, back then it was paying $10 an hour, which in the 90s was big money.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it was a receptionist at a mortgage company.
Huh.
And I got the job, started that Monday, And like 2 weeks later, I'm looking around. I'm like, I could totally do this. I could totally do this. I had, was back in school and I started taking real estate courses just on my own. And I got my loan officer license and I'm 19 years old at this point. And so I'm there it took me a couple of months to get everything. So by then I was there for probably about 6 months and I am like chomping at the bits for someone to give me a chance to do what these other people, these cool people were doing. Yeah. Because I was like the receptionist and they were, the loan officers, right?
Sure.
And long story short, got my loan officer license. I went to the lady and I said, I want to be an originator. And she looks at me. She's like, you're a receptionist. She goes, you're never going to originate. And I said, I quit.
Yeah.
And I literally just quit right then and there.
That's awesome.
And back then you could remember circling, jobs in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Okay. So I found this guy. He said, willing to train. Called him, interviewed. He said, great. I said, just give me a script. I said, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know any guidelines.
Yeah.
But I do know I can sell over the phone because I was all like over the phone sales.
Okay.
My first year there, I was a top person.
Really?
I had no idea what I was doing, but I could convince people to do these loans.
Sure.
Just over the phone. And we did loans nationwide.
Wow.
And it just took off from there.
I admire the fact that you quit right on the spot.
Yeah, I wouldn't, it's funny. It's like, would I do that now? No, I would at least give a 2-week notice.
Yeah.
But back then,
that's what I'm saying.
I was like, I know that I was meant to do something more than what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I really wanted someone to give me a chance. And also when you're 19, 20 years old, I mean, you're super naive into the ways of the world.
Yeah, no, 100%.
But I'm just like, I'm doing it. I'm going for it. What do I have to lose? I already got living in sleeping bags and cardboard boxes.
Right,
so.
100%. That's the whole, like, my mentality with everything now, especially because we have this gig economy, right? Everybody has these side hustles and all these things, but I'm like, I get it. Corporate America, there's a place for it. There's, people that like the stability, the fringe benefits, all the things, right? Mm-hmm. But when you get to a place when you're like, I don't like what I'm doing. I mean, yeah, I get it. When you have a family and you have this and you have benefits, and it's harder to kind of go, I can't just quit on the spot, but you're not happy.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I've never, and I've always lived my life that way. It's like so many people just take the safe route, right? And they live these I would say like a life of mediocrity where they're not living to their full potential at all. Yeah. And they just exist on autopilot day after day after day, hating what they do and then resenting that they did it. Yeah. But they never do anything about it.
That part.
And I've always been like, like let's go.
Yeah.
Like I'm ready to exactly. And through your greatest failures have come some of my greatest successes, at least. And I'm sure that's the same for you.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I just think that like more people are getting to that crossroad. I think, especially just with how our world is now and everything else, that it's like they can see it, but it takes either somebody like a mentor or somebody that trains them or somebody that says, hey, I can show you. And they just need to see it most of the time if they want it. And then
you got to want it.
That's the other part.
Yeah. And you got to actually take, again, that action.
Yeah.
That's the toughest part. I mean, even what I'm doing now, so I've started to coach other people, just getting to that point where I've been talking about becoming a speaker. I've been talking about doing this and doing that, but I didn't do it.
Right.
And then, just through a series of like synchronous events. I mean, that's basically just kind of what happens. And I started paying attention to my signs, and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm just doing it.
Yeah.
I'm doing it.
Yeah.
If I fail, I fail. But I don't think
I tried it.
to. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's kind of like when I tell new agents, I'm like, the worst thing that can happen is you go back to where you were at. Exactly. Like you're not going to die.
No.
And it's like, so that there's a mental boundary that goes, I can't right now, or I don't know. It just prevents them from taking the leap of faith, right? Like, and so, but, so how did you get to San Antonio from that? Like,
my family had moved here. I had an uncle that was in the Air Force, back when we used to live in Buffalo, we used to come visit him all the time. And then we go back to Buffalo. We were like, oh, okay. Yeah, not San Antonio.
Yeah, yeah.
And when I moved to California, my mom, my stepdad, and my brother, and then one of my aunts, they actually retired and they moved here to San Antonio.
Okay.
And then just a couple of years later, which is kind of funny, was that my uncle moved to Dallas, and everyone stayed here.
Mm-hmm.
And, when I was done with California, I'm like, I'm just going to go be with my family. And
Yeah.
so that's why I picked here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's a special place to be. San Antonio is, again, from living in Dallas versus here, like, I love it here.
Yeah.
This is such a special town. You are literally 2 phone calls away from anybody in
Yeah.
the city,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
And I think it's the centrally located in the state. Like you
Mhm.
could, if you wanted to go to Austin, Dallas, Houston, we're all kind of close. So
Exactly.
100%. So starting off on like going on your own, right?
Mm.
And not knowing anybody in San Antonio as far as a book of business and starting that. Biggest challenge.
Breaking into, everyone told me that San Antonio is a very cliquey real estate town. I remember, hearing that several times when I worked here. And to a point, it's true.
Yeah.
So I would say that was my biggest challenge, is actually getting people to know who I was.
You didn't have
'cause again,
social media back then.
No. It was, barely. And I said, I'm just going to put my head down. I'm going to go to every networking event possible. I'm going to meet as many people as possible.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do all of those things that get people to know me. And that's just what I did.
Okay.
And funny story. Truth is, that's what you have to do now.
Yeah.
Really, when I'm talking to a loan officer or someone who's struggling, I'm like, well, what are you doing, right, to get out there?
Mhm.
Are you going to networking events? Are you getting involved in things? Are you doing this? Are you calling people? Like all the, like old school stuff.
Sure.
Because that's really, there's no secret
Yeah.
to growing your business. It's
Yeah.
literally just that.
Yeah.
And so I just one loan at a time.
So I think that watching kind of how after I met you and then kind of watching your business grow, it grew exponentially through over the years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so watching you become one of the top lender in San Antonio, when you are trying to figure out your growth, right? Like how you're trying to grow, what's the next step? How do you know what I mean? Like what were the things that you had to like put in place for that growth?
So my first answer might surprise you, is the first thing I put in place is my boundaries on what I will and will not do, when I will work and when I won't work. Because what happens is when you have these crazy goals, right, you'll tend to completely put your life out of balance.
Yeah.
I feel like my mic is going in and out, so sorry about that.
It's all right.
And, so that's first and foremost is like, what am I willing to give up? What am I willing to say yes to? What am I willing to say no to?
Yeah.
And who's going to help me?
Yeah.
Right? Who's willing to help me? Because you can't do the numbers. Especially back in like 2021, you can't do that without help. Nobody can.
Right.
Unless you're a robot.
Right.
Who knows if that's going to happen.
So putting like staff or
stops. Yeah. The right people. And what I did is I hired people that were better at me at different things. Right. So instead of finding someone that was exactly like me, I found like Mary, who's been with me since 2008. She is the calm. She is the one who keeps us, we call her Mother Mary.
Yeah.
That's who I was just talking to a few minutes ago. She's the one who keeps everyone under control, but she's also very detail oriented. I am big picture. I am, putting the foot down, I'm the face.
Yeah.
And then, I had other team members who, like one was, I call him the brain. He's not with me anymore, but when he was, that was his function, is that he would figure the really hard stuff out, but he didn't want to be in the forefront. So just hiring people that are better at you than, other things. And then just also deciding too, like, what is the max I want to do? Because again, as you're growing, to me, life balance is more important than monetary success.
Yeah.
All day, any day. And I just didn't want to lose that balance. And, when you get to a certain point, you're like, all right, I'm good. Like, I don't want to do any more than this.
Right.
So after doing those big numbers, even a couple of years ago, I'm like, I don't want to do that anymore. It was too stressful. Yeah. Money was great, but it wasn't worth it to me or my family.
Right.
So I know I didn't exactly answer your question. However, that's just important when you're thinking about growth.
100%.
Mary tells me this story where she's like, remember when you used to tell me if I could only do $1 million a month, right? And then and I did. I put just plans in place. It's just a little thing. Just, literally you work every day for 8 hours.
Yeah.
You'll get business. Yeah. You're going to be busy. And then, the next year after that, I said, well, if only I could do $3 million a month, and then we say, okay, only if I can do $5 million a month, like that's the next goal. And, then I started adding people to the team from there. And then when I started adding people, I went from 5 million to 10 million, like almost overnight.
Dang.
And, but it also puts a lot of pressure on you because then you have to, sustain all these people and maintain, and then you're responsible for feeding and, multiple families. Yeah. So, I've scaled it down now where it's just myself. I added Kristen Fox, who's a business partner, and it's now become the Fox Guidry team. I'm taking second place.
Okay.
And I'll explain why in a minute.
Okay.
But she's really, going to be more of the team lead.
Okay.
Because I do want to get into really coaching and mentoring and developing other people, both in business and in, real estate and things like that. So,
yeah.
But it's just the right people. It's not just, you can't do it alone. You have to have a team of people behind you.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the right team, you need to get the right team.
Yeah. No, I think it's huge. Important. I think it's huge. I think the hardest part, and I've talked about it before, is finding the right people.
Yes.
It's just like how they found you at the party, right? Like, they were looking for somebody. You just happened to be serendipitously there.
Exactly.
But, it's like they were looking for somebody. You were looking for a job. It just kind of happened. And so, but you talked about life balance, and you talked about, and it made me think about something that I had with Susan. And it was like what's it worth when we were doing the most business that we ever did? It was like health was like, that was the thing that would be affected the most if you were trying to like just run and gun for, all day, every day.
Right.
So that brings me to, I remember we used to have conversations because you had some health challenges. And I remember like it was weighing on you. I remember having a conversation how you were trying to figure stuff out. But it was something major that happened in the last 3 years, right? Like that.
Yeah. I had so I have a blood clotting disorder. And back in my early 20s, actually when I first moved up to Dallas, I had blood clots in my lungs and almost died then. I was in the hospital for a long time. But the time that you're talking about is my most recent bout with the blood clots. And I had massive pulmonary emboli in both of my lungs, all through my aorta. It was crazy. And the doctors, they called me like Miracle Girl because by the time I actually got to the ICU, I went right from Texas Med Clinic into the ICU in the same day. They said they don't know how I was alive. I was one day from dying. My heart was like pretty much gone. And, they were able to get those things dissolved, thank God, but they did a lot of damage to my lungs.
Your heart was what affected?
Well, yeah. So the clots were so big that they cut off a lot of the oxygen. My oxygen saturation was like in the 70s.
Oh wow!
And my pulse was like 130, and it just wreaked havoc in there, and it was causing the heart not to get the oxygen that it needed. And it was basically dying. Huh. Yeah.
That's crazy.
I know you're like,
yeah, no, because
I know. And it was so funny because we went, so true story.
Yeah.
So this is 2020. And again, interest rates are at like 2, right? My phone was ringing off the hook.
This is when you were the most sick.
And I started noticing signs, like my legs swelled, both of my legs swelled, and I started getting these pains in my back, and I started getting out of breath, and I thought it was stress.
Yeah.
I thought that I was having panic attacks,
Okay.
and because I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
And so we took off and we went to Sedona. So we hopped on a plane, and which is the worst thing you can do if you have blood clots, like the worst. So we hopped on a plane, and then I tried to hike. We went to the spa. I tried to hike. I couldn't hike, and ended up just playing dominoes all weekend. And I said, I'm like, I think I have COVID. That's what I think I have COVID.
Yeah.
And so that we got back on a Sunday evening. On Monday morning, first thing, I went to Texas Med Clinic, and the guy goes, Jennifer, I'll be right back. And I'm like, oh crap, this is probably not a good thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, do you want me to call you an ambulance, or do you want to drive there? I said, where? He goes, well, they're waiting for you at Methodist in the ICU because you got blood clots again. And from everything I'm seeing, it's pretty serious. And it just kind of took off from there. And that was the day. And I actually wrote about this in my book. It's like that morning I had, probably 50 or 60 text messages by the time I got to the hospital.
From work?
Customers.
Oh, God.
Okay. And I had all these phone calls, and my phone was blowing up off the hook. My husband was 3 hours away at a job site. And I'm calling him like, I'm going to the hospital. Like I didn't even eat. I didn't have a phone charger, nothing. I literally just went straight to the hospital, and they were ready for me and immediately took me in for tests. And the doctors come in like 2 seconds later. They're just looking at me, and they're like, how are you alive? And I told them I was on a plane, 2 planes. And they just sat there like, oh my God, what happened here?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a miraculous recovery. I've gotten stem cells.
I was going to ask, 'cause I saw something about that online.
That saved my life.
And you went to California for that.
So at Tijuana, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're actually I have it. I got to call the lady back. I'm going to go get a redo. We're going to go in January, and Michael's going to come with me this time. But
so you went by yourself?
I went by myself. Well, he didn't get the stem cells the first time, but they came down with me, but they just couldn't actually go with me. I was the only one that got them.
Got you.
But after my blood clot, I was diagnosed with a disease called pulmonary hypertension, which will kill you in 5 to 7 years. Your heart will stop beating because it just gets worn out because there's too high of a blood pressure in between your heart and lungs. And so I thought I was going to die in 5 to 7 years. And an ex-boyfriend who is, again, an angel. And I talked to him, and that's the reason I dated him, is because he was the one who got me in charge or in touch with the stem cell people.
Okay.
And he said, look, you have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
You might as well do it. And within 2 weeks of getting the stem cells, I was back to normal, where I couldn't even have a conversation. It would be like, I couldn't walk more than 10 or 15 steps without being wildly out of breath during the busiest time in mortgage. And, it was crazy. But the team that I had back then, they really stepped it up, and they covered for me while I was out.
Because that was the beginning of like when everything, the craziest market we ever had.
Lockdown. You couldn't go anywhere, do anything.
Yeah.
Phone was ringing off the hook. It was just like, I look back at those days, I'm like, oh God, I don't even know how I survived. Mentally,
right.
But you got to do what you got to do.
That's crazy.
But I'm healed, and to me, it's like I feel better than ever.
Yeah.
Since those stem cells.
And like, you said redo, but is that because you have to do with the stem cells, or is it just kind of
theoretically you should? So we're all born, and I'm just going to make up a number with 50 million or 50 billion mesenchymal cells. Okay. And those are the cells that go in and treat inflammation in your body. Yeah. And they're like the messenger cells. And every time you get sick, every time, something happens to you, trauma, injury, whatever, those cells go to where they're supposed to go, then they die off.
Yeah.
And so your body doesn't make new ones.
Right.
So once they're gone, they're gone.
Right.
So what the stem cells I got 50 million mesenchymal cells. And I might be saying that wrong, but they're like MSC, and it sounds like mesenchymal to me. Anyway, those Yeah, I mean, it threw an injection and they defrosted the cells. They were donated umbilical cord cells. And at the time, you could not get what I got in America because of all of our regulation.
Right, right.
Now, that's since changed, but still we charge 5, 6, 7, 8 times what they do down in Mexico for the same thing. But that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I got those, and I literally am a new person. Like, I feel stronger. My back problems went away. I mean, it's healed my entire body. And, you know, I know that I've had trauma since then from injury or whatever. So I'm like, let's just put some more in me.
Yeah.
It can only make it better.
That's fine.
You know, and it's better than having like a back surgery. Or,
Yeah.
I mean, I literally don't have any. I mean, I'm almost 50 years old.
Yeah.
No aches and pains. I can lift weights. I can do all the things that, you know, I used to be able to do 20 years ago with no issue.
Yeah.
So we could do a whole show on the stem cells.
Yeah.
'Cause it's fascinating how much they help.
And I only know kind of like stuff from what I've seen online and through Joe Rogan and all that other stuff like that. But I just think about knowing you and knowing how active and how you like to hike.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw that you couldn't breathe or you couldn't do that, like I was like, not just your life, but just like your way of life and everything that you enjoyed doing. Like, I was like, man, that would suck. Like
it was, I had a lot of conversation with God going like, why would you take this away from me?
Right.
You know, why would you bring me this far, you know, to survive these things and then kill me in 5 years? Like, not like he was doing it, but
sure.
You know, those are the natural things that we think when we're going through a hard time.
Yeah.
But everything ended, you know, up working out perfectly and better than I could have ever imagined.
And I think your faith, because I know we've had discussions about it, and just in general, like I think having that mindset and that belief, I mean, that's my opinion, is that it got you to where you're at. You know what I mean? To where you're at right now, through going through all of that and going, like, just being healthier and alive.
Change my, I mean, you know, once you've had like that near death experience, and I've had a couple at this point, you're not the same person. Like the things that mattered, to a lot of other people, it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
You know, and it's actually very freeing.
Yeah.
And I've said this a couple of times. People are like, "What?" I'm like, I wish everyone would almost die, so that they can appreciate how beautiful life is and how many things that we have to be grateful for.
For sure.
And also mindset is everything. It is everything.
Yeah.
It determines your healing factor. It determines how your day is going to go. I mean, everything.
They say that stress is probably the number one killer above anything else, because it affects your body in so many different ways, right? Like, not just your mood, but like, it exacerbates any type of illness or anything that you have, like, because it's just, I don't know, it's stressing out those cells or those, whatever it is. And I'm like, and I was having this conversation with my daughter yesterday. She was talking about events that were coming up, and she's like, well, it's just going to be this. And I'm like, why are you putting this negative, like, mentality about it before they even got here? Like, why even have an expectation about it? Let's just go, and then if it disappoints, it disappoints. But if it doesn't, hey, you know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. It's just I'm glad everything worked out.
It did. And if you ever notice the things that you're most stressed out about, they always work out just fine. And then you just wasted a whole day worrying about something that didn't even happen.
Right.
Or, how people think, I don't know. Like I'm going to give you an example.
Yeah.
I had somebody first, like out of random, like stop talking to me. And I thought they stopped talking to me. And it turns out they were really sick, but for weeks I was like, oh, I can't believe they stopped talking to me and this and that. And what did I do? And I was like making up this whole dialogue in my head about this person. And at the end of the day, the person was sick. Yeah. And I'm like, what an idiot of me, you know, like I just wasted all that time worrying about stuff, and I could have been caring about this other person. So it was a lesson to me to really just to reiterate what I tell people.
Right.
listen to my own advice.
Right.
But it's, it's not about you, right? And, the things that we worry about are usually not worth worrying about at all.
Yeah.
And the things that we get stressed about, they always work out. So it's like, what are we doing to ourselves? Cut it out.
So I brought up hiking, and I saw something that I didn't know, that you hiked Mount Kilimanjaro.
I did.
When was that?
2017, 18.
Okay.
One of those years.
Okay.
A couple of years ago. Yeah.
And that's in Tanzania, Africa.
Yes.
19,000.
347 feet.
Dang.
Yeah.
How
I'll
was
never
that?
do it again.
No, I was going to say, how was that?
No, it was
Because you've hiked all over
the world.
Yeah.
And this is a trip, and I just remember my father wanting to strangle me because I went by myself.
Shut up.
I did. I hopped on a plane.
I mean, you were part of a group?
I was part of a group.
Okay.
Yes, but I flew to Africa. I mean, I
you didn't go with
navigated. I was on the plane by myself and somehow found my way.
Yeah.
People are very kind though a lot when you're traveling.
Yeah.
So I almost missed one of my flights, but someone actually grabbed me and said, "No, go that way." And I'm like, I can't read the signs.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I did it just to see, honestly, if I could do it. I had been hiking, been to like Italy and France and Switzerland. I've done all of that.
Done Peru.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, I'm like, I want to see if I can do like a real mountain, So I'm like, let's go to Africa. I'm like, all right, I'll just do it. But it was very mentally challenging.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
It was very mentally, because it was so hard. I mean, you'd walk about 10 to 12 miles a day and you'd have, 4,000 to 6,000 feet in elevation change up and down.
I mean, was it snowing or was it just a dry, was it different?
When we got to about 15,000 feet, I got frozen in my tent. I mean, they used to have to like take hot water because I was alone again, because there's no body heat except for me.
Yeah.
So they used to have to like take hot water and pour it on the zipper of my tent to get me out in the morning.
Stop.
Because it was frozen shut. Yeah, I couldn't get it. I froze. I would wear like 5 and 6 layers of clothes, and I was still freezing the whole time.
Wow.
But yeah, up at the top, it's all like glaciers and stuff.
Yeah.
It snowed when we were on the way down, but not on the way up. But it was freezing cold though.
Yeah.
Like
so how long did it
cold.
take to go up and down?
We did 6 days up, 2 days down.
Wow.
Yeah, and my knees hurt like on the way down because we did it in 2 days.
Yeah.
For 3 months. 3 months. It took my knees to because my IT bands got so tight from just going downhill for that long, because we did it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
We ascended, like 13,000 feet in 2 days.
Dang. So did you train? Did you train a lot for that?
Yes.
You had to. Yeah.
Oh man. And I trained here. So my training consisted of, those masks like you saw in that Rocky. So I used to have the oxygen deprivation mask. And then I had a special boots because I was trying to break them in.
Okay.
So you can imagine, like total dork. Okay. Like total dork. I was so so I had my sticks, and then I put weights in the back because I had to carry about 50 pounds.
Yeah.
So I put weights in my backpack. I had the mask on, I had my sticks, and I had boots on, and then I wore shorts. And I would just go to like Eisenhower Park or or like when I wanted to do
like,
they're like,
person?
who's this dork? And so people would, always like stop and ask me. And so I didn't want to take the mask off all the time. So I put signs on myself. So I was even a bigger dork. But yeah, so I used to do that. And I used to run a lot. I would do sprinting, lots of lunges, because it was, and that was my training. But yeah, I was the dork.
So you didn't have a trainer. You just did it
I
on
just
your
did
own.
it. Yeah, I just did it. Looked up it on the
Bless
internet
you.
what to do. But yeah, I remember people taking pictures of me and like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I'm such a dork. So
I remember, I don't know if I saw it or I remember you telling me that there was one hike where you like broke both your ankles or something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I'm bringing this up. I just remembered it in my mind.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Costa Rica.
Costa Rica.
Costa Rica in an earthquake, 6.7 magnitude earthquake, got attacked and swarmed by Costa Rican wasps.
No way.
Yes, and then they swarmed me, and my friend Danny, who's a real estate agent, by the way. she went with me. It was a trip I had won for work.
Okay.
And we had hired a guide to go out in this remote, rainforest to this waterfall in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
And there was a earthquake. Next thing you know, we got to the waterfall. We're walking back, and I thought they were horseflies just flying, like in the middle, because it was a really, like I'm using my hands to talk right now, only you could see me, but there was it was like you could see the sun coming through, and the trail was really, like a thin one-person trail because you're through rainforest.
Yeah.
And horseflies, not horseflies. So I walked through the middle of them, and all these bees or wasps started swarming both of us. And the guide, who was super slow, he was probably about 50 yards behind us. He sees what's happening. He's like, run! And we're like, ah! We took off as fast as we could. And I'm trying to punch these stupid wasps off of me. I ended up falling. And when I fell, and I'm looking down as I'm running because it was so
narrow.
uneven and narrow, and there's rocks and roots. And I'm like, something bad's going to happen. So I just going to try to at least be careful of where I'm going. And ended up falling. And I'm like, crap. And I'm punching the bees off of me, and she's rolling on the ground, and we're trying to get all these things off of us. We finally get them all off.
Did you get stung?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. All over my body.
Damn.
All over my body. My head. My legs, my arms, my butt. They were everywhere. But, I'll tell you, the stings did not start coming out until like 5 days after. And I got welts the size of like footballs and basketballs, like all over. But I did learn a valuable lesson. If you ever get stung, like really bad, like we did, you take a hairdryer and you blow dry your whatever that area is, and you get it as hot as you possibly can. And it was the only thing that would stop the itching for like 6 hours.
Wow.
I'd be like, I'd be hair drying myself all the time. But yeah, so I ended up, I didn't know at the time, but both of my ankles were broken. But I walked back 4 miles on broken ankles. It was just pure adrenaline. I
bet.
And I made the mistake of taking my shoes off the second I got, because I was like, I couldn't take it anymore. I was in so much pain. Yeah. And my leg just went, because I had tied my hiking shoes like really tight.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was fun. 12 weeks in cast, 12 weeks in the fracture boots.
Was that before or after Kilimanjaro?
Before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember you telling me, and I was like, what?
Yeah, that was fun. That was a humbling experience. I have a lot of good stories from that. I mean, can you imagine, like, I couldn't take a shower? I had to, like, take a bath and, like, hang my feet out the top of the bath and, like, wash my hair with cups. It sucked.
Never going back to Costa Rica, huh?
I have not been back since. What's funny is people have asked me, like, you're going to go back? I'm like, I think I'm good.
I've seen it. I've done it.
I'm good. Not ever going back there.
That's hilarious. So you talked about how you went with a realtor there. So, I mean, you've obviously made a lot of really great relationships through your career, through what you're doing now. How important for you and your business and just in life, like family, friends, your husband, those relationships, how do you, I don't want to say rate it, but how do you like attribute that to your success?
Well, you can't do stuff alone. Anyone who says that they did it all by themselves is full of crap.
Yeah.
The truly successful people, it takes a team of people behind them or next to them in order to be successful. So relationships are of utmost importance to anybody. And I don't think that gets acknowledged a lot.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, right? It's like I did this, I did that, I'm this, I'm that. And I've always tried to put my team, it's like Mary's the one who does all the work. She really does. Yeah. But I get all the accolades, but Mary's the one who's there every single day, day after day, figuring things out, putting everyone, in their place.
Yeah.
She's a mom.
Yeah.
And then even with, my husband, Michael, another prime example, that man, I'm trying not to get emotional. He stands behind me with any, quote, crazy idea I have or any inspiration or thing I want to try,
Yeah.
he is with me and he supports me. And I could never have done any of the things that I've done, especially since he's been in my life, without him and the relationship that we have. So really, realtor relationships, no one person can be successful on their own.
Right.
It's just not. It's just whether you not acknowledge it or not.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that's why I always catch myself saying we. I don't, I don't have a team anymore, but it's the office now, and everybody's here, and to me, it's like we're a team. Like we all work together, we all help each other out. That was the whole reason why I did this, and it was like, so I don't say it's mine or I always catch myself like when I'm saying, well, we'll do this, and I always have to like go back and change it, but because that's just in my natural. I don't know, like just speech, whatever.
That's a great quality to have.
Well, it's because I feel, I feel like they do help you. You know what I mean? They do have, they are part of that, and it is a team. So, so how do you maintain the mental and physical mindset like that you for your day to day? Like, what's your life hack for that? Like, what do you? I remember you used to work out in the mornings and stuff like that.
I do.
And I remember there was the affirmations. Back in the day. So
Still do it.
So yeah.
Still do it. So I'm a early riser. So we get up 4:30 in the morning. Michael makes me coffee every morning, which is amazing. And for the first 30 to 45 minutes, we read the Bible and we pray and we talk about what's going to be happening in our days and what's going on. And then we pray together for each other, which is very powerful, very powerful. After that, I will write, usually for about 20 to 30 minutes a day. I'll either journal, or if I have a specific idea, I have different notebooks. Okay. So next to my bed, I have like a ton of books, and I have like all these different journals. And depending on what I'm writing about will determine what journal it goes in. Okay. So I write something every day, and then I work out. Again, as I've gotten older, I'm like a every other day worker-outer, right? And that has helped obviously with everything in life. When you're healthy, it makes a big difference. And then I do mirror work. Like I literally talk to myself every day. Not only do I tell myself, and I had to do this a lot when I started getting my dark hair because I wasn't used to it. I'm like, I am beautiful. Like you're beautiful. Like you're smart. I used to tell myself that, you're the top loan officer in San Antonio. You are, going to, now like my affirmations are, you're the top coach in America. You are a powerful speaker. You are going to be an artist that is very well paid. So I have, it changes up. Yeah. But what I started noticing back even when I started doing the beginning is that the affirmations, like I became that person. I told myself that I was going to be a best-selling author before my book came out.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I've heard that from other people, but not somebody that I know personally. Yeah. You know what I mean? That and it actually like worked.
It works. And I also spend time, so I meditate. Not every day, but I would say probably every 2 or 3 days for about 30 minutes. Okay. And what that has done for me is not only has calms my mind, but I envision my future. I envision what I look like, what I'm doing, what I'm wearing, how I feel. And when I started doing that, those things started coming true too.
Do you use an app or do you just quiet time?
Just quiet time.
Okay.
I have like the insight timer so that you can put like different music on the background, and they have like a bazillion different meditations. I will usually just put like classical music on, or like some new age music, or just those little bells or whatever, and just sit. And I have my little meditation pillow, and I just think about like what I see in my future, and like who I want to be, and how I want my day to go. Like all of those things, I think about them. Yeah. And it's the important part is when you do things like that is you can envision success, or you can envision, health. I mean, there's anything, there's no limit to it. But in order for it to work, you have to have the feeling that goes with it. So I sat down recently, within the past month, and I wrote down what my ideal life in my next chapter of my life, what that's going to look like, how many hours I'm working, how much money I'm making, what my days are like. And then I took and I put what I'm going to feel like what those things would feel like. So when I meditate, I'll take something from my future self and then I'll put the feelings with it. And it's like you change your vibrations in the world. I'm like a nerd when it comes to that stuff, but
that's cool.
it is it's Michael, it's so effective. And I do that with everything in my life.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, as far as like even what I'm wearing, like clothes. So I keep on seeing this vision of myself in like a green, I'm trying to think of like almost like this color green on the pillow.
Yeah.
And I see myself in a green shirt all the time, sitting on the back porch of the house that we're building on these rocking chairs that we don't own yet, with my leg hanging off and drinking a cup of coffee. And I keep on seeing that vision. And I'm like just super calm and super powerful. And my hands are dirty. So that must mean to me that I'm something artistic, right? Because it's paint. And I just keep on seeing that. And so when I get that thought in my head, I just sit and think about it. And I'm like, man, I'm just so peaceful and calm. And like everything is good. And like we don't have to worry about anything. And I just think about those things. And, do I think it's going to come true? Yeah. Am I going to like take a picture one day when I'm wearing my green shirt I don't own and sitting on a rocking chair I don't own yet? I'm going to do that. We're going to remember this conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can, your mind is,
Powerful.
and it's so powerful. And we don't tap into the things that we can do.
Yeah.
A lot of times probably because people are too scared, right? Or they don't want to know, or they don't want to put the work or it's just easier to do nothing.
Yeah.
Right. But
that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I have been on the cusp of all of that, of like, because I'm an early riser, and most of the time, like you said, every other day, but like trying to journal and trying to like have the quiet time, and it's usually when I'm done working out, and then I'm just kind of like close my eyes, just sit there, like the way I feel, like all of that type of thing. But to actually set it aside and actually, how you said, put feeling to your thoughts, or to actually have those type of thoughts instead of just like trying not to think, like those are you know what I mean? And so those are the kind of things that I've like done or whatever. But that's interesting. That I'm gonna.
You should try it.
Yeah,
it's life changing, but you can't just do it for like one day.
No,
I mean, this is like an everyday
life.
Thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I even have Post-it notes on my mirror, and my Post-it notes now say that, again, it's been up there since the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
It says you are the best-selling author, you are the best coach in America, you are a powerful speaker.
Since the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
And you just had a speaking engagement.
I did.
The social media boot camp.
Social media boot camp. Yeah.
How did that go?
It went great.
Yeah.
It went great. I had a lot of people come up to me afterwards. People cried, which was, for me, I was like, wow, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
But I basically just told my life story.
Yeah.
And just overcoming adversity and how, you can't let people limit you, and it doesn't matter where you came from or who you are, you can be whatever you want to be.
Yeah.
And, I also talked about the importance of having a relationship with God, a higher power, right?
Yep.
I mean, that is something that I think is paramount to anybody wanting to have a truly fulfilled life.
Yeah.
You have to have that relationship.
Yeah. I think it's just having something above you, right? Because when you don't have that, then you just...
What's the point?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So we're close to the end of the year. What are your goals now?
I'm working on another book.
Okay.
So another book. I don't know what it's going to be called yet. I have no idea. Michael usually helps me with that.
Okay.
I am moving more into really coaching other people. So now it's my time in the world to build other people up and help other people achieve success. And that is my 2024 goal. So that's really what I'm working towards.
Yeah.
And on my artwork, like I've really found this passion. Like I've always been artistic, and I used to draw a lot when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And then I stopped because I got too busy.
Right.
And then I read this beautiful book, and you should get this for Jen. Okay. It's called The Artist's Way. And it was like, I think even written in the 80s, but it's like a journal and there's a book, and you go on this journey. It's 12 weeks. You have to commit to doing it every single day for 12 weeks.
Okay.
And it is life-changing. But what it did for me is it brought back out my creative, like, painting side. And so I just started painting. Okay. And I'm like, oh, I'm actually kind of good at this. Like, I love it. Like, I'm obsessed with it now. Yeah. Like, all I could think about, like, I'll wake up with, like, art ideas. So, I mean, I really would like to. So one of my goals is to really, get into, really concentrating on getting better at that craft. Yeah. And it's been pretty cool because I've sold a couple pieces here locally in San Antonio. Then I have art in a gallery in Sedona.
Wow.
And I'm just like, well, all right, God, where are you going to take me with this? I have no idea. Yeah. But to me, it's fun and it's a great outlet. But that book, everyone has a creative side, and we tend to limit ourselves as to what we can or cannot do. Yeah. And what the book teaches you is like, you don't have a limit. That's a self-imposed limit.
Right.
Like you should try to, write or, anything creative. Yeah. Some people sing, some people play an instrument, some people draw or paint or whatever that thing is that we were born to create. Yeah. And it brings out that beautiful part of you that a lot of us have just like shoved down, but it was a part that I was definitely missing.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Those are I know I have weird goals. It's more along the lines of I would like to help people. I would like to speak more. I have a lot of speaking engagements coming up this year. Nice. I would like to try to impact as many people as I possibly can, obviously in a positive way. Yeah. And it's just really just to enjoy, the fruits of my labor for the past almost 30 years and just really help other people. Yeah. And that's awesome. That's my goal, or goals.
I can keep going and going and going, but first of all, I want to thank you for your time.
Of course.
I know you're very busy, and I appreciate you giving me a little bit.
It's been my pleasure.
No, it's mine, and I just want to congratulate you, one, for all your successes since we've met, and just knowing a little bit of your life personally. And what you've been through, to see you right now and where you're at, I think it's pretty cool.
Thank you.
And so, and I wish you the best with everything you've got coming up. And I'll keep following and keep watching.
Please.
And but yeah, I have to ask this one last question.
Sure.
If you could go back and give your young self advice, what would you tell her?
Not to settle, to know your worth. For a long time, and it makes me emotional thinking about it. It's like I didn't think, I don't know, that I could find someone to love me, and so I made a lot of mistakes where I settled for people or things that I shouldn't have settled for. Yeah. And I had to learn, I guess again, it worked out at the end, but I had to learn a lot of lessons the hard way. Yeah. And if I could give myself is just to really just know my value, and not to settle.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I appreciate you.
You're awesome, Mike.
Talk to you soon.
Absolutely.